Good YouTube. We got a video on Yu Yu Hakusho today. We got the most emotional power system in Shonen. Holy stutter. Yu Yu Hakusho's REIKI. I just dropped a video about Yu Yu Hakusho, so I'm hoping this guy's video is not like AI generated. Looking at the thumbnail, he does his own work. So this might be someone to sub to provide us some good content. If you've been enjoying the content so far and a new style of breakdowns, make sure you sub below. Check out the YouTube video while you at it. As always, I'm people a little like on these. Ooh, what's this? Everybody dropping. Why everybody dropping? Why everybody dropping? Reacts for sure. Personal video. Shout out my dog F Taro. I'm not gonna go scrolling now. As always, the main man Slide until time I provide you with some content. Without further ado, let's just slide right in. I like you use power system too.
The shonen genre is largely defined by its battles, and those battles are largely defined by each series' respective.
Now that I know he's a real person, I don't even need to think about it.
For most shonen, the power system merely exists to facilitate the fights. But when it comes to Yu Yu Hakusho, its power system is an external manifestation of a character's emotions, and the fights themselves are often only there to facilitate the emotional growth of its characters. In this video, we're going to be dissecting the power system of
like the fights are the backbone of something bigger and not the other way around. A lot of times the fight is to something bigger and they make the emotional turmoil and the growth be the thing on the sidelines. While in Yu Yu Hakusho, every fight, most fights at least, have a purpose, have a goal, and they tell you things about the characters or more so the growing universe.
REIKI, or spirit energy, the power utilized by the psychics of Yu Yu Hakusho. REIKI shares a lot in common with other power systems, partly because it drew inspiration from what came before it, but it also inspired a lot of the power systems that came after. REIKI does have its own unique elements that sets it apart from other shonen, but the most important thing about a power system, in my opinion, is not how complex or unique it is, but how well it serves the themes and the narrative of the story. So in this video, we're going to be discussing how REIKI works, but also how it enhances the story and the core themes of humanity, masculinity, and self-acceptance that permeates Yu Yu Hakusho. Before we delve into REIKI and Yu Yu Hakusho, we first need to understand the concept of what it is and where it comes from in real life.
Talk to me.
Ki, or Chi, is the Eastern concept for the vital force that exists in all living things. Ki is an important concept in traditional Chinese medicine and martial arts, which is why it's used to explain the abilities in series like Dragon Ball and Fist of the North Star. REIKI in particular refers to the energy healing practice that originated in Japan, popularized in pseudoscientific alternative medicine. While REIKI in Yu Yu Hakusho is capable of healing, for the most part, it's used and treated much like Ki from Dragon Ball. So Togashi may have simply called it REIKI to distinguish it from Dragon Ball, as Dragon Ball's influence on early Yu Yu Hakusho was already pretty apparent. However, I do think there's a pretty good reason for this distinction, as Yu Yu Hakusho leans more into the supernatural and psychic rather than pure martial arts. Before it turned into a full-on battle shonen, Yu Yu Hakusho focused much more on ghosts and spirits than punches and kicks. Most of Yusuke's early adventures as a ghost in the manga wasn't adapted into the anime, most likely just to cut to the action that the series would later be known for. The series' title itself hints at this origin, with Yu Yu Hakusho directly translating to Poltergeist Report. Given this original premise, it makes much more sense to me to consider REIKI users as psychics as opposed to martial artists. So while REIKI at its very core functions extremely similar to Ki in Dragon Ball, I see it less as a copycat and more as an improvement on the concept, by adding more emotional and thematic.
You could argue it's an improvement. It's an improvement for its story than what Ki would serve in the Yu Yu verse. I'd say it's a different avenue though. I feel like people will hear improvement and take that the wrong way.
Depth to it. REIKI, or spirit energy, is the energy residing in every human being in Yu Yu Hakusho. While all humans possess it, not everyone can use it. While it seems like technically anyone can learn REIKI, master practitioners like Genkai typically only train those with an inherent affinity for it, which can manifest in various different ways. For example, the Kuwabara siblings have a high spiritual awareness, enabling them to sense spirits and ghosts. Yusuke, on the other hand, possesses immense spiritual power within his punches, making him equally as talented. Beyond enhancing physical strength and sensory abilities, spirit energy can be used for energy waves like the spirit gun, energy constructs like Kuwabara's spirit sword, object manipulation, and so much more. In the English dub of Yu Yu Hakusho, REIKI was translated as spirit energy, but they also used this term for Yoki until the end of the chapter Black arc, when it was correctly distinguished as demon energy. I can't really fault them, as REIKI and Yoki function largely the same in the story, but one significant difference that I've noticed is that demon energy often allows for far more diverse abilities. For example, All elemental powers shown in the series are exclusively used by demons through demon energy. Hiei and Zeru were able to manipulate fire, and Toya, Seiryu, and also the ice maidens like Yukina are able to manipulate ice. We see earth manipulation with Risho and Genbu, wind with Jin, and to an extent Toguro with his finger gun, and Suzaku controlled lightning. Mitarai seems like an exception to this, as he is a human and a water manipulator, but he's also a territory user, and we'll explain how that works in a second. Compared to demons, humans can do far less with their spirit energy, generally limited to basic energy beams and constructs. This difference in power sets likely exists because demon races in Yu Yu Hakusho are far more diverse than humans. Combine this with the fact that demons are more likely to be energy users, it makes it much more likely that certain techniques will be passed down genetically. Pound for pound, I don't think Yoki is inherently more strong than Reiki. It's simply that demons on average possess much more energy and are typically more skilled as a result. Both Reiki and Yoki can be used for healing, forming or manipulating weapons, and generally function similarly. But by far the most narratively important function of both is that their strength varies depending on the user's emotional state. We see this when Yusuke got stronger while fighting Suzaku, when he saw that Keiko's life was at stake. We even saw Kuwabara temporarily outshine Yusuke when they went to rescue Yukina, landing the finishing blow on Toguro. Now it might seem like an ass pull that only our main characters get these emotional power-ups, but that might be simply because most of the enemies in Yu Yu Hakusho are demons. As I mentioned before, while demons have much more energy than humans on average, they are also on average much less emotional than humans. Which I think is a balanced trade-off, meaning that humans might have the disadvantage when it comes to energy.
Humans have the higher ceiling, while like demons have a better like system. They're like laid out. This is what you do. You do this. You do this. You know, this technique does da da da. This ancient artifact can improve blah blah blah. But they're unemotional. They're just there.
But they can make up for it when it comes to emotion. We see that it's also possible for demons to experience these emotional power-ups as well, such as when Hiei and Kurama ascended from B class to A class after Yusuke's apparent death. However, I personally think this was only possible because Hiei and Kurama had become more human-like over time due to their interactions with Yusuke and Kuwabara. The effect of a character's emotions is really what sets Yu Yu Hakusho's power system apart. While emotions play a part in other power systems, what makes Yu Yu Hakusho stand out is that the story itself centers on the emotional development of its main characters, especially...
Yeah, because like, Bleach is a good pull, but they don't get that much stronger based off emotion. They'll leak more of their power with emotion, but there isn't always a linear or tangible like, oh, they definitely got stronger here from this feeling. In Dragon Ball, it's there. Like you see Gohan's rage, but they chalked it up to him being a hybrid Saiyan. And on top of that, rage is like a okay booster because of like adrenaline, you know. But in Yu Yu Hakusho, it's clearly shown like, oh no, I'm angry, or oh no, I'm fighting for something. This is gonna increase me heavy. You get what I'm saying? It's like heavily tied to the power system. I agree.
It's easy to dismiss these emotional power-ups as simply the power of friendship winning the day, because in a way that kind of is what's happening.
Fairy Tail's a good one too. Because emotions are very important to the narrative. But I will argue Fairy Tail is not as linear. You do get stronger, but or not as exponential. And you can take crazy leaps, depending on what you're willing to do. But I wouldn't be mad at someone for comparing the two. I think it's a very accurate comparison.
But the reason why the trope is often criticized in the first place is because it's often written in a really cheap way, as a cop-out when the author doesn't know how to naturally resolve the plot. Yu Yu Hakusho, however, executes this simple trope exceptionally well by prioritizing the main character's emotional development first, rather than using it as a convenient plot.
As a last minute.
Yusuke's character arc in the spirit.
That goes back to what I was saying, like the character development is the backbone behind the fight. It's the bigger thing behind the fight. You get what I'm saying? Well, in a lot of other shows, it's the other way around. The fight is the bigger thing, and it's like, oh, they mostly developed here. This is why that happened.
Detective involved him learning to solve problems peacefully after his coping mechanism of violence was stripped away by virtue of him being a ghost. After proving that he had a heart of gold deep down, Yusuke was given the responsibility of a spirit detective. This led to Yusuke fighting Toguro, his perfect foil. Toguro was a living caricature of unhealthy masculinity, to the point where he literally rejected his own humanity.
Was a human,
it was a perfect point for Yusuke to finally learn how to embrace his own emotions, which resulted in Yusuke reaching the peak of his spirit energy and finally gaining the strength to defeat Toguro. Something that both humans and demons in Yu Yu Hakusho share is life energy, which serves as a last resort in combat, as using all of it results in the user's death.
That's like Fairy Tail, Naruto, not Naruto, maybe Naruto. I'm trying to think of shows. I've seen it though. It's a common trope. It's not overly common, but it's common. It's for sure in Fairy Tail. That's like because I just rewatched Fairy Tail recently. That's like the best one I can think of in my head. But there's a lot of shows where like you can trade off. I'm thinking a lot of books I read too. Like any Miram story, there's like regular key, and then there's innate key where it's like, well, technically, it would be chi, Since the Q, you pronounce it either way. You pronounce it with the Q, it's key. You pronounce it with a K, it's key. You pronounce it with a CH, it's chi. Sometimes that Q can be seen as what am I thinking about X? I don't know. But yeah, they have like true key and then they have innate key. And innate key is like naturally in your body. It's like a life force almost. It is in Naruto, I think. I just know because they're able to use up their life force. Nagato did it. Well, he was already about to die. No, because he would have lived for a lot longer.
The way I imagine it is that Reiki and Yoki are the energy that humans and demons emit, while life energy is the glue that binds their body to their soul. Together. We see like Yusuke using life energy as a last resort in his fight against Suzaku, and Kuwabara also transfers some of his life energy to Yusuke, allowing both of them to survive. This is almost the exact same scenario as when Kurama tried to use the Mirror of Darkness to heal his mother, which would have cost him his life, but Yusuke jumped in and sacrificed half of his lifespan so that they could both survive. So I suspect the Mirror of Darkness is powered by life energy, and through its wish-granting abilities, can heal diseases that spirit energy and life energy cannot heal directly. The only instance that we see of life energy usage resulting in a character's death is when Toguro uses his life energy to block Yusuke's spirit gun in the final round of the Dark Tournament. I generally dislike the shrinking lifespan trope because it's often used as an ass pool, and we rarely ever get to see a character die unless they are a villain or we're going to die anyways. True. However, Togashi is using the latter example in a much better way in Hunter x Hunter with Kurapika, to show off the character's self-destructiveness and to foreshadow their inevitable death. By far my favorite facet of Yu Yu Hakusho's power system is territories. Territories were introduced in the Chapter Black arc, when Sensoi's tunnel to the demon world caused Yoki to slip into the human world, awakening psychic abilities in regular humans. Territories allows users to expand energy to a certain radius and allows it to impose an ability on it. Like Kaito's Taboo, for example, which forbids violence and forces enemies into a battle of wits. I suspect Kaito's Taboo, Murata's Wiretap, and Amanuma's Games, which are all proximity-based, was what Togashi originally had in mind when he created territories. But eventually territories evolved into general hacks abilities, like Kuwabara's Dimensional Cutting Sword, for example. What I love about territories is that it allowed regular humans to gain powerful abilities by challenging Yusuke mentally instead of just physically. This was incredibly refreshing coming off the heels of the Dark Tournament arc, where the fights were continuously escalating in intensity and scale. So instead of trying to one-up himself, Togashi was smart and chose to flatten the power scale by introducing territories, which is more horizontal progression rather than vertical. This is pretty much what REIKI did after part 2 of JoJo's, and if it wasn't obvious already, territories were inspired by stands in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It was only meant to be a simple parody, which is why it didn't last that long, but I think it was a good enough idea that could have carried its own series. And apparently Gege Akutami agrees, because we see the legacy of territories carried on through domain expansions in Jujutsu Kaisen, as its authors heavily inspired territories carried on through domain expansions in Jujutsu Kaisen, as its authors heavily inspired by Togashi. So in a way, territories is the most derivative, but also the most influential part of Yu Yu Hakusho's power system. Now there are two special energies in Yu Yu Hakusho that are more powerful than spirit and demon energy. The first is an evolution of spirit energy, called sacred energy or holy chi. How exactly sacred energy is attained and its users vary wildly between the different translations of the anime and the manga. The only characters that we see use it for certain is Shinobu Sensoi at the end of the Chapter Black arc, which rockets him up to S-class level strength. Some translations state that Genkai is the only other character able to use sacred energy.
It said even Genkai couldn't do it. What you mean she's the only other one who can do it?
Some translations state that Genkai is the only other character able to use sacred energy, but I doubt this, as you'd figure that she would use it in the Dark Tournament arc, especially against a girl, if she actually had it. The English dub states that sacred energy takes 40 years to unlock, and Sensei was able to attain it faster by dividing his training between his 7 personalities. But this never made sense to me, because I always assumed that Sensei was actually just mentally ill, rather than having 7 different souls in his body. And either way, only one soul can manifest
True, just don't have more souls. It's more of a personality thing, like a split personality. You didn't have multiple souls. You just have multiple expressions of your soul, so to speak, based on like your mental state.
At a time, anyways. So I don't know how we can do so much training all at once. I
Right.
prefer the explanation that sacred energy requires one to actually have pure intentions in wanting to improve the world. So by dissociating his trauma and sins onto his other personalities,
That works, but then it just becomes like, oh, why haven't other people been able to use it?
Sensui was able to keep his original Shinobu personality blameless and pure enough to attain this holy power. There's one other implied user of sacred energy in the series, and that is the main character, Yusuke
Yeah, I was about to
himself.
say, like, Yusuke's
While
a great
Yusuke's
guy.
final fight against
Full
Yome
bars
was
a
mostly
great guy.
off-screen in the manga, we gotta see a little bit more in the anime version. As a last resort at the end of the fight, Yusuke combines both his spirit energy and his demon energy to achieve a new energy, which is implied to be sacred energy in the original sub, but is stated to be something brand new in the dub version. In my interpretation, Yusuke achieved something different than sacred energy, but similar
But it's
enough
like
to make
same
some
thing.
interesting parallels.
Yeah.
Yusuke's initial arc, culminating in the Dark Tournament, was all about him accepting his humanity by embracing his emotions, which manifested in him reaching the peak of spirit energy. But Yusuke's
And then
character
he
arc
hit
in
the
the
peak
chapter
of
Black
demon
arc and
energy.
beyond was about him dealing with his darker suppressed desires to
Peak
fight
of both
his
sides.
shadow side, which manifests with his demon energy. If it's true that Sensui achieved sacred energy by remaining pure as a human, by fracturing himself, then it makes perfect thematic sense if Yusuke attains an even greater power
A
by
different way.
combining his
By
human and demon
combining
energy.
it. Yeah, because Sensui used to be on the human side because he saw the things demons did. But then when he seen the worst things humans did, he essentially set switch and he made the claim that demons are just more honest. Humans and demons both do devilish things. I want to be on the side that's more honest. So he set switched and gave up on being human essentially. So like
energies.
his whole thing was compartmentalization of these advanced concepts you need to actually live through and understand. And that's what kind of cooked him in the grand scheme of things.
His emotional human nature and his violent demon nature by integrating himself. In my opinion, this should have been the peak of power in Yu Yu Hakusho, and I gave my idea of how beautifully this could have played out if Togashi finished the story as he intended in my
Right.
Three Kings arc video. At a first glance, Yu Yu Hakusho's power system might not seem that unique, appearing as a mere slight improvement on the most basic shonen power
It's
system.
been tough.
But what truly sets Yu Yu Hakusho's power system apart is how it profoundly enhances the themes and emotions of the narrative. Emotions,
perfect
in a
fit.
sense, is the core focus and theme of Yu Yu Hakusho, so it's only fitting that they are the main focus of the power system. Yu Yu Hakusho may not have the objectively best power system, as it's heavily influenced by what came before. However, some of the most highly regarded power systems, like
Still
Jujutsu
take
Kaisen's
inspiration
Curse
from it.
Energy and Hunter x Hunter's
I still don't think though in general that like something taking inspiration from it has to make it good. I think it's good because it stands well on its own and it's like it tastes even better when mixed with the themes of the story. It's like if you have a really good beverage and you have really good food and then you have the YouTube. The YouTube videos you can watch on it on your own. Or like for example, movie snacks. There's movies you can watch on its own. Good standalone. The food that you're gonna eat, hopefully it's good quality food, is good standalone. But when you mix the two together, it's all that's fire. This is elite. This is a great experience. I don't think how many people are willing to bite your flow is a good enough argument to say that like, oh, it's not the best, but it's still good because people have copied it. I know that's not what he's saying, but just to the broader audience, I don't think like this idea that like kind of might makes right in terms of popularity like clears. I just think it's a good power system, and I think there's evidence for it, and it fits really well with the story. A lot of series feel as if the power system was added afterwards, like it's integrated into the story, but it's like, oh, it has this power system. But he's right. Yu Yu Hakusho weaves it in to where the power system is not something that's just in the story. It's a part of the story. It's weaved into every single character, power or not.
Nen, which is created by the same author, have undeniably taken things from Yu Yu Hakusho's power system. But what do you think? Where do you think Reiki ranks amongst the other power systems in Shonen? And what is your favorite aspect about Yu Yu Hakusho's power system? Feel free to let me know in the comment section below. And while this channel is still pretty
Change that boy's
small,
face.
I'm usually able to read most comments and reply to a great deal of them. And if you're new to this channel, be sure
Appreciate you. I'm hoping and assuming he's gonna make more videos like these. I love watching like these intellectual type videos. I intend to make videos very similar, man. So yeah, this was a tough comp video, and this was 7 months ago. So I know what he got in the lab now is probably way better. Appreciate y'all for watching. Shout out to Disciple. The Disciple, play on Disciple. And yeah, make sure you stay happy, healthy, and hydrated. You know, time to catch me next. Peace.